Welcome to the Gaming Trend Podcast, the official podcast of GamingTrend.com. My name is Anthony Shelton, and I am joined by David Burdette.
Hold on just a second. One more shrine.
Oh, no.
I promise. Just one more.
All right. Well, while he finishes his shrine, we're also joined by Noah Rigsby.
Hello, everyone.
And a special guest from Geeks Under Grace, Joe Morgan.
Howdy.
In this podcast, we talk
Joe.
about... yeah. Put it down for Joe, okay? Have some respect for our guest. In this podcast, we talk about the latest games we could get our hands on. We talk about games in our backlog we should have played a long time ago and games you absolutely need to play. We also squeeze in news. This week is one of the rare occasions where everything is big. So we're talking Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and all the latest Overwatch news because that's there. And Joe is going to tell us about Advance Wars as well. After that, we'll see where we go from there. Heard we got a game to play. But before we get into Tears of the Kingdom and everything else, I have two things I want to bring up first. Number one, I want to say video games is about peaks and valleys. Redfall was a valley. But man, I'm on a peak right now. Okay. It's not Tears of the Kingdom. All right. It's not Tears of the Kingdom. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm on a peak. Okay. I will explain more in a later podcast. I just needed to share that. Second, Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks, sir. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yes. Appreciate you joining us. So let's just get started with you. Tell us about yourself and Geeks Under Grace.
Sure. So my name's Joe Morgan. I have been around here and there for 8 or 9 years. I've written for a few different outlets over the years. But about 9 years ago, I was part of the team that started geeksundergrace.com. And we cover video games, movies, anime. Tabletop has gotten really wildly popular for us. But I'm kind of an emeritus there now. I used to be on the board, and I've kind of backed away a bit since getting married in the pandemic. And
oh, there you go. Congrats.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But the team's still going strong there, and I'm contributing as much as I can, a couple of articles a month when I'm able and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's game reviews and that sort of thing with kind of a focus on the content in the game. So kind of like the ESRB rating, but we go into more depth, kind of let people know what they might interact with if they're conscious of that sort of thing.
Okay. Very good. That's useful information for people out there. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to do a rapid fire round with you. All right. I'm going to throw a few things at you and you're going to give me some answers. All right. Favorite video game of all time?
Oh, man. Dark Souls 2, Sins of Scholar of the First Sin is the first thing that comes to mind. But Ori and the Blind Forest is probably my real answer.
Oh, okay. Two kind of more recent games. All right. I see you. All right. Aaron Rodgers once told Adam Schefter to lose his number. So what's something in video games that you wish would lose your number?
Oh, man.
Anthony
there was a game on
that.
PlayStation 2 called Barbarian. I wish that thing never existed.
Wow.
Wow, that's
not even lose your number, just deleted from
blocked. Just eradicated.
I don't want the number deleted. I want the person behind the number deleted.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I'm a pro pineapple, yeah.
You can go. Thank you.
And that has been our time with Joe Morgan. Geeks Under Grace.
Nobody's ever going to talk to me again.
Watch his little, block just shoot out.
Would you rather sing or dance?
Sing.
Okay. Why don't you? No, just play. All right. Not going to put you on the spot. All right. Just wanted to do that with you. Let the people get to know you a little bit. All right. Obviously, Tears of the Kingdom has come out, and it's huge. It's big. It's doing all the stuff. I haven't played it yet. Joe, apparently you haven't played it as well yet. We're busy with other stuff. But the narrative that I've heard around Tears of the Kingdom has been it is it almost feels like a Breath of the Wild mod, like really, really expansive mod. And I don't say that disparagingly, but that kind of is what it feels like from what I'm hearing. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing. David, Noah, you guys have played it. Tell us your thoughts about Tears of the Kingdom. Either one of you can start.
So let me start out with the fact of most know, and Anthony even made a joke about it the other day, of almost wearing as a badge of honor that I don't use my Switch. Like, it's kind of sat there and collected dust, and Nintendo didn't even give me a like year in review last year because I hadn't played anything long enough. I hadn't actually played anything long enough for them to give me one. They're just like, nah, fam, you ain't played nothing. Go home. So I kept talking about that and stuff like that. And I remember saying in several different circles, Tears of the Kingdom, it looks like more Breath of the Wild. I didn't really care as much for Breath of the Wild. We talked about why we didn't care as much for Breath of the Wild on the last podcast. And it was just kind of went from there. And I'm just straight up eating crow right now. Not in the sense of I didn't care as much for Breath of the Wild, but I'm eating crow in the sense of I thought Tears of the Kingdom was just going to be me playing more Breath of the Wild and being annoyed with it for the same reasons that I didn't enjoy Breath of the Wild. And there's still some certain quirks in Tears of the Kingdom that are still there, but I find it a lot easier to look past them with the way that Tears of the Kingdom approaches you playing the game. I guess one of the things I will mention, given I didn't play a lot of Breath of the Wild, it probably feels a lot fresher to me because of the fact I've not just ran around Hyrule doing all these different things. So the changes in the map aren't the only changes that I'm seeing because I didn't play Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild enough to get a great feel for, okay, I'm just on the same map. But it definitely, at least from the beginning part, doesn't feel like the same map as I play it. It feels like the Nintendo's been smart with how they've done things differently. The biggest thing, of course, that has changed everything is the way that the new abilities work, because I know that like you had the magnetism and all this different stuff that you could use, and I thought it was neat, but I never felt like it was something I had to use. Whereas in Tears of the Kingdom, the abilities you get right off the bat, you're like, oh, I need to use these. And it feels a lot more rewarding to use these compared to what I remember at the beginning of Breath of the Wild. It felt like, okay, I can maybe figure this out. No, you have to figure things out using Ultra Hand to pick things up, to glue things onto the side of different items. Anthony, you can roll the footage if you like. To like everything I saw in this particular gameplay trailer that they did, I thought, okay, this is just kind of gimmicky. No, it's actually the way the game plays and encourages you to do things. Now, I'm not super creative, so a lot of my ways of doing something are very... There's a word and I can't think of it. They're very crude. the method, like for instance, there is a moment at the very beginning where you were trying to get through. It's very similar to the way Breath of the Wild starts. Is there is that cold area, and of course Breath of the Wild, it was if you go in the cold, you got to have something to keep you warm, or you're going to take damage. Well, I had made some recipes and had eaten them to keep myself warm, but you've only got so much time. So I decided that I was going to, I was trying to do things as quick as I could. Then I tried to climb up a mountaintop and it was icy. So I was sliding down it and I was getting frustrated. So I turned around and I chopped down a couple of trees, glued the logs together and laid it up against the top of the side of the mountain so I could climb up to the top. Cause I was like, I'm not gonna find my way around to a different side. I just want to do this as quick as I can because I'm about to run out of time. And it's just these little things of here, just if you can think of it, you can bypass it. I'm not going to be the guy who's going to come up with, I'm sure everybody's been seeing on Twitter, these absolutely ridiculous I mean, people are building orbital defense systems. I saw a drone that went and attacked a camp and then released a smaller drone which fought on the ground and pretty much forced all of the bokoblins or whatever they are out so that the bigger one could kill them. Like, I'm like, how are people coming up with this stuff? And it's like, that's cool. It's really awesome to see that, but I know I'm not going to do it. But Zelda Tears of the Kingdom doesn't make me feel bad for not knowing how to do that. Like, it's instead, it's like, okay, yes, they solved it that way, but you can figure out your own way to get around this problem. Noah and I were actually talking beforehand about how there are quite a few moments where we just feel stupid with the way that we figure something out and how to get around a puzzle or how to do a specific thing. But even so, you still feel that accomplishment of, well, I did make it through. I did get to the end of this puzzle. So it's just kind of cool in the fact of they don't expect you to find the same answer that everybody else does, but you're still able to get the reward because you found your own way to do it. I don't know if that's really how Breath of the Wild eventually got to. I don't know that that's how Elden Ring essentially treats things, which on a personal note on Elden Ring, I think a lot of that's more due to my fear of losing everything if I die, because I get anxiety of, crap, I better save every 5 minutes. But I don't feel the same way with this that I felt with Breath of the Wild. It makes me wonder if I went back, if I would enjoy it more. But I feel like it's easier for me to manage what I'm doing. Like, the issue still exists where the world is very empty, which that's the Nintendo doesn't have a very powerful system. They can't handle having a humongously populated world. What they're doing right here is already just mind blowing. Like, Nintendo's engaged in the dark arts or something, because this game should not function as well as it does on the Switch. But that being said, it's just one of those things of it's really fun to play, and it feels like there's enough structure there that I can enjoy myself. Whereas with Breath of the Wild, I didn't feel any structure. And maybe it's just the fact of the structure is more in the fact of there's a lot more where Nintendo's getting me to figure out how to do things, as opposed to just explore. Like, my exploring is happening in figuring out the puzzle, as opposed to the exploring being just, here's a big open world, figure out what the heck you want to do. So there definitely feels like a little more story guidance in this one, as well as there just feels like there's more story in general. Because I remember playing the entire tutorial area of the first, or of Breath of the Wild, and there was nowhere near the amount of story that exists in the opening tutorial area of Tears of the Kingdom, at least from what I remember. Noah, you may have to correct me on that, but I feel like I have a lot more from this.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely like front ends a lot of exposition, more so than Breath of the Wild, where Breath of the Wild, you kind of, you wake up and you kind of get a quick recap. There's a lot more events happening that you witness before, poor Link always ends up waking up without his clothes. He's just got his little briefs on, he's like, why did all my stuff get stolen? Every game it feels like. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what David said. There is just something incredible about this game. I played Breath of the Wild like 3 or 4 times.
He did.
Multiple times. I played it again whenever they announced Tears of the Kingdom, just to visit it, and I didn't think that they would be able to make Hyrule feel as magical as it did whenever I first played Breath of the Wild. Because, keeping with the same, location layout, I should say. But it feels unique and magical, just like the first time I played Breath of the Wild. There's so many things that you want to explore. And yeah, it's not, like David said, it's not a very, enemy dense world, but it's, in my opinion, that's not what they're going for. They're going for, we're hiding things that we want you to discover. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about this game, is that its core philosophy, I think, is discovery. They want you to discover new ways to take on enemies, new mechanics, new features that, they don't want to be in a tutorial. They want you to something happen and you're like, oh, I can do that. Like for me, an example is, I was in a shrine and I needed to get up to a certain higher elevation level, and I was messing with stuff and couldn't quite figure it out. And per happenstance, I noticed that, like, hey, I accidentally pressed a button and fused a rocket to my shield. I was like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. I pressed a button and you literally will rocket propel with your shield in hand up into the air, into the sky. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do this. Like, because they don't say, hey, attach, there's nothing. It's the bare minimums is what they tell you, and they let you roll with it. It's
That's
insane.
Hilarious. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. And like the things that I will do and discover in this game, David he may not ever find out, unless, we talk about it. Like I was reading.
I'll give you one if you don't mind me giving one example on that. Actually, we were talking about the one of the tutorial areas getting down. They expect you to use one of the what's called the Zonai wings, and it's literally a glider that you just stand on and it just glides down. And stupid me could not figure out how to make it like fall off the edge so that I could glide on it. I thought it was something you had to fuse to something. Like, I could not figure out for the life of me what it was. And there are these, like, floating things in the sky that you can jump on and reposition to climb on to get to other places. So your boy grabbed that, pulled it over, stuck 2 fans on it, jumped on it, and let it push me until I was over a lake that I could dive down into. Because I couldn't figure out. Turns out it was literally as easy as just sticking it on this little rail thing, and the wing would have just slid down until it fell off. And
like
I felt very stupid in the fact that I couldn't figure that out. But I figured out my own way to do it that was completely and utterly different from the way Noah did it. So it was just kind of a neat thing cool. And this is in the tutorial area. This wasn't even, I got into Hyrule and did this. I figured it out in a completely the opening of the game. So it's just really cool.
Yeah, I like this. The player freedom and creativity is just incredible. I was reading an interview and the director said that they got the idea for, all of this flexibility and, player creativity from seeing all the wild stuff that players had done in Breath of the Wild with like the bomb jumps and the quick swaps and all this stuff. And they just ran with it. Cause I would really like to just talk with the devs to see how they coded this game with just the insane possibilities that you can do. Like, did you intend to did you have to code this thing to attach, to A to B to cause C, or did you just say, we're going to let everything be coded for I would love to have a chat with them about it because graphically it's incredible. I don't think there's
the black magic, dude.
And there's not much, more, because like I said, it's hard to be like, oh yeah, you're going to enjoy it because this, because the stuff that I'm doing and the way that I am playing the game will be completely different. Not only pathways, but combat interactions, map discovery. It's all going to be unique. And to be able to do that in a video game and make it work is outstanding.
Don't forget that you have the ascend ability. There are so many things that could be solved if people would just remember to use the ascend ability, which is essentially and it's another one of those things of, this is such a cool feature. Why aren't more games doing this? But it's essentially a power that if you're underneath a ledge and it shows up as like you can jump through it, you literally will just jump through and it will take you up through the ledge to the top of it. And it's made exiting certain areas so much easier. Or instead, I don't have the stamina to get up here. Well, maybe I can find a way under this area that's just enough of a jutting ledge that I can use it to get up there, or at least get up to an area that'll help me to mitigate some of the stamina. And like half the time I forget that I have this power that makes them, like I was in an area that it was like, how in the world am I supposed to get on this after I hit it with recall? And I was like, oh crap, I forgot about Ascend. Because I sat there for 5 minutes.
Which, and like to add to your point, it's a masterful ability because one, you can't use it everywhere. It's only specific instances and locations, so it doesn't become like OP in the sense that you don't have to worry about traversal. Because
which is incredible that they designed it so it wasn't like that's something
like specific
that you have to have in mind, and with so much area.
And there's a lot of more depth in this Hyrule than there was in Breath of the Wild. There's a lot of like underground areas, and there's a very big underground area that I won't spoil. That just like I said, that I discovered on my own. Had no idea about it. I hadn't seen any marketing for it or anything like that, or any reveals.
Because everybody was just thinking about the Sky Islands.
Yeah, there is a big area, and just it's so. There's not many other games that I can think of that have ever come out where the joy of discovering something is so consistently, relevant the entire experience. It is definitely not just Breath of the Wild with more stuff. It is. I didn't think they could, because I adore Breath of the Wild. I know not everybody feels that way, but I didn't think they could, magic in a bottle, or whatever that saying is twice. They have done something truly masterful, in my opinion. And I've put around 15 hours in, maybe 20, because there's no way for me to check without downloading the app. But I have only done the first like section or region, because you just get so sidetracked, like seeing something, wanting to explore it. Yeah. And just like I said, the discovery, the skill gap that is in this game, like there was like, we feel
Did you
really
just say
dumb.
skill gap?
Yeah, with the building.
In a Zelda game?
Yeah,
Like
like,
in the sense of the way
like
people build, man.
Yeah, like
Well,
there are
when I
ways
think
to
skill
go
gap, I'm thinking Fortnite and building all extra fast. Like,
It's
what
just
are we
the thought
talking
that
about?
people are building flipping mechas, and I'm over here
And
like,
all this stuff.
look
Yeah.
at this bridge.
I put two logs together, guys, like, and like you overcome the same obstacle.
Guys, look, it's 4 wood panels.
Yeah, that's literally me. But you don't feel bad. Like you feel like, oh, I found my own way. Like David said, we're finding our own way to play the game and beat the game. And it doesn't, I guess you don't feel hampered because you're not doing it the way a game intended you to. So, and I appreciate that when a game has like, hey, if you are this, creative and stuff, you can do all these cool things. But if you're, you don't want to go with that, effort or go that pathway, you can still do everything, enjoy it your own way, and it'd be perfectly fine. Mad props. I just go buy this game. We'll talk about the number of copies it sold, but just go add to that list.
So, if I may speak up,
yeah,
you guys have kind of been convincing me a little bit with this conversation. I've not played this yet, and the reason I've not played it yet, well, we've not finished Breath of the Wild, but I tend to play open world games like a magpie, in that I need something that tells me you need to go here, here, and here. Otherwise, I'm going to see something shiny and then I'm gone. The original Breath of the Wild playthrough I had was 40 hours and I played one dungeon.
Yep.
Wow.
And ended up falling off the game because I was like, well, I've spent all this time and new games are coming out I want to play and that sort of thing. So, you combine that with a little bit of intimidation factor, seeing all of these mechas being built and flying machines and crazy stuff that people are doing on TikTok or whatever. And it's like, well, I'm 38 years old. I don't have the time to be able to put into this like some of these kids are to come up with some of this. And then you also realize that like the amount of high roll that there is like 3 times the size it was in Breath of the Wild or whatever. It feels pretty overwhelming. But then I hear you guys talk about it and see the footage. I actually hadn't seen any footage yet because I try to keep myself away from that. But it's kind of warming me up to the idea of approaching it a little bit more now.
It's like I said, they've taken an idea that I adored the first one because it didn't tell me where to go step by step. I got to figure out and create my own path and discover my own way. David liked a little bit more structure. And they still have that structure that like a lot of RPGs do, where you have your main quest list, your side quest list, and then you have like secret objectives that as you find they'll unlock, but it doesn't, hold your hand the entire way. It's like, hey, go to this region, go to this area, and then from there you do your own thing. And you don't have to play them in any order. You still get structure, but there's creative freedom in proceeding. So best of both worlds, in my opinion.
Yep, that's helped me a lot because I am, again, I'll do things as I go along the way. Honestly, it reminds me of Skyrim a lot in the sense of there is the main objective for me to chase, but I'm going to almost guaranteed find all kinds of random things to do as I go there. So I end up with a lot longer of a quest list by the time I get to that main objective. And it really just comes down to my own ADHD controlling it and not chasing every side objective I come across.
That's like, things like Xenoblade Chronicles that give me, here's where you need to go, here's a line to get there, are a lot more approachable for me. But the idea of spending some time kind of goofing around with the systems and learning is sounding more appealing to me now.
Yep.
And it seems very overwhelming with like, you're seeing all of these bonkers builds and constructions that people are doing on Twitter and stuff, and it is not as complex or hard to achieve as you would think. The building and structure is very simplistic, but in a good way. There's not, it's no Minecraft redstone, like checking, making sure circuits are going the right way. No, it's very approachable.
And the good thing is it's not necessary to build mechas. Like that's just what people are doing with it. Like the joke is all you really need is a long bridge. Like that kind of solves most of your problems.
There's literally a shrine where one of the objectives is you have to, I can't remember the top of the device, but it's where like the metal ball like rolls down the wall and you have to like make it go along the rails, and you have to build these structures to like, make the ball progress further down the rail, and eventually the ball will go through a room and hit a button which will unlock the door and let you beat the shrine. And it gives you, along the way, these different building structures. It does a good job of, hey, if you want to build something, here's some stuff, and it's plentiful in the world. I couldn't figure out how to progress the entire, structure. And I was like, I know Nintendo, wants me to do this because that's the way it's laid out and designed. But Noah discovered that if I just stick, 7 logs together and make a really long stick, I can poke the stick through the door and poke the button and the door shot up.
That's hilarious.
So I told David earlier, like, you feel so stupid because you're like, I know what Nintendo's wanting me to do. I know that there's a certain mechanic that they want me to achieve. So I feel really stupid, but then I feel really smart because I figured out my own way to, do the key, bit that's in movies when they have the stick, I just poop and then the door shut up.
I felt really stupid in this one shrine because I wanted to do, or I don't remember if it was that I think there was a secondary, because what they do a lot of times is they'll put your main objective, which is completing the shrine, but then they'll have this a chest that you can get, and it's not always good stuff. Like half the time it's like 5 arrows. I'm like, I did all of this for that. But there was one where you're supposed to use fire essentially in order to lift like a balloon to like do things, and I went back down to get the secondary ball to put inside the thing, only to find out I completely forgot to attach or to get the pallet and throw it back down so that I could get back up. So I'm standing down here like, crap, I am stuck. Well, they've got these like large almost candles that are almost as big as you are, that essentially you could put the balloon over the top of them to use it to get up. I attached 3 of them together as a plank and then stuck the balloon on there and just kept running at the balloon so that I wouldn't fall off, because it was a very small platform, until I got up to the top and then jumped off as fast as I possibly could. And it's just these little things of, I highly doubt there are that many people who ended up having to do that like I did. But you know what? I got there, I figured it out, and I didn't have to restart the shrine. And that was really the most fun of it.
Yep, the stories that, we'll be able to talk about, like, oh, how'd you do this? And you're like, oh, I did this. Like that, I really love it.
And think about it in terms of Breath of the Wild. There's one solution to the shrines that you do in there. Like, they're cool puzzles, but there's one solution. That there's not just one solution. It feels like in these other shrines, like you can find out different ways, your own way. There's largely going to be a main solution, but there are side solutions like Noah and his extremely long stick that he used to poke the button with.
In Tears of the Kingdom, the wooden
in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. So, yeah. So,
Zelda, yay!
Tears of the Kingdom, go buy it. Yeah.
Is Tears of the Kingdom worth $70? Say it out loud.
Yes.
Sounds like it.
$100. Like that is.
Let's not push Nintendo that direction.
Bro's going back to Super Nintendo days.
If they keep making games as good as, Tears of the Kingdom, like I said, I'm that Nintendo fan.
Gonna get the collector's edition.
Yep, got that. So,
okay.
That's why I was absent. I was out there getting the collector's edition.
Oh yes, that's true. Yep, that's right. You were absent.
I'm on bathroom duty. I know. I'm on bathroom duty for for being absent.
All right. Well, that's Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I will play it. I hope I last longer than Breath of the Wild. I think I will. Because I didn't last long on Breath of the Wild. I got to pass Zora's domain in Breath of the Wild, and then I was like, oh, there's no marker for... Okay, well, I don't know where to go. Well, let's get lost for a little bit. Okay, I'm tired of being lost. Where do I go? I don't know. Nobody's there to tell me what to do, so... I'm a Google Maps person. I need direction. If I don't have it, I get uninterested after a while. So, but it sounds like this one is a little bit better with that. So, we shall see. All right. Well, let's talk about Advance Wars. Joe, our guest, you have been playing Advance Wars. You reviewed Advance Wars for your site, I hear. So,
I did, yeah.
Talk to us about that, because it's the reboot. And so how well has it been rebooted?
All right. So my review's over at geeksundergrace.com. You can check it out there. I gave it an 8. I'll go ahead and preface that. But so, I grew up in the day of Game Boy Advance. I was in high school, middle school when that came out. And Advance Wars 1 was my first big go-to game. And I remember eating it up, beat the whole first game, and then it was a few years before I could progress. Now, so fast forward to now. what are we, 20 something years down the line, and the Wars franchise has been around for a long time. But I think this is kind of the one that everybody knows, right? Or the Advanced Wars series. They have taken this and modernized it in a really cool way to bring it to new audiences, but I have a few qualms with it. The gameplay's still there. I think the gameplay is great. All the characters are still there. Some of the beef that I have with it, though, is in the way that they've modernized it. So they have taken the sprites that everybody knew and loved, and they've turned those into 3D models. In some instances, that's fine. They do things like when you activate a CO power, you get a little bit of animation. In the old one, it was just kind of a screen of the character standing there with some sprites flying around behind them. They have really animated them into some cool animations to kick off the CO powers for this one. I love that. But there's little oddities here and there, you know, when you've got the animations of the armies attacking one another, when you've got the animations of the soldiers jumping on the buildings to capture them, there's something that's just a little off. And I recognized it almost immediately. It feels bizarrely different. Like, I wish we could have kept some of that old school charm. I feel like it accidentally introduced a little bit of modern jank because it's a 3D model instead of a sprite. But like I said, the gameplay's still there. All the maps are still there. All the COs and their powers for both the first and the second game are there. So it's all there for you to consume, and it's a great package. One of the beefs that I personally have with it as a modern Switch game is that this would have been a great opportunity to give people an online offering that they could have chewed on for a few years. And what they have instead done is limited the online matchmaking to only people on your friends list that have the game on their account. Okay. So I couldn't play it online with anyone because I was the only one on my friends list that had the game. And the same goes for the map creator. They have a fully fleshed out map creator. You can design your own scenarios, but you can't share those with anybody unless it's a friend on your friends list. And I feel like those were major lost opportunities.
Good old Nintendo and their online design.
Drives me crazy. But apart from that, yeah, I really like the game. I think it's a great package, and I believe it was $40. I'll be transparent and say I got a review copy, so I didn't have to pay for it. But
I think it's actually the full $60.
Is it? Okay. Mm-hmm. I think for fans of either the retro gaming or fans of strategy games, I think it's still a great package. You're getting a lot of campaign scenario there.
Which is like 40 hours long, isn't it?
It's long, yeah. Yeah. And you don't have to play it in order, but they kind of encourage you to. They don't want to unlock that second campaign unless you kind of button your way through it if you haven't finished the first campaign. So for people that want to just jump in and try stuff from both games, you can. Just know that when they present you that option saying you haven't finished the first game yet, it's okay. Go ahead.
So. No, go ahead.
You bring up the art, and I was wondering, okay, so there's the jank with the 3D models, right? So then, do people actually, and you yourself, actually like the new art style? Because it looks a little different than the original. It's brighter. It's, I want to say more cheerful, but it kind of has that effect to it. It's kind of like what, Mario 64 was versus like Mario Galaxy, in terms of like the difference in the feel of Mario. Is that true, or is that just in my head?
No, I think you're right. I mean, the original games were very bright and colorful, but I think they definitely make that pop on the Switch. It's beautiful. Those 3D models and the way they're animated are my only real beef with the 3D models. I think the updated character models, the designs, the new characters, and the animations that they've put in for them are fantastic. I think they look really cool. It's just watching those units move around. There's something about it that doesn't sit completely right with me.
Interesting. Would you? So, I mean, both were made by Intelligent Systems, Fire Emblem and Advance Wars. Sorry, I was thinking Fire Emblem in my head.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Fire Emblem also made by it. When it transitioned to 3D models, like it was a little funky at first with what was the Path of Radiance, I think, was on the GameCube.
Back of the GameCube.
Think of as the no feet.
Huh?
All I could think of is the no feet.
And it was still like a good Fire Emblem game, but is it that kind of similar thing? Because I hadn't played this Advanced Wars, so I'm just trying to get a picture in my head of like what this looks like.
Yeah, I mean, all the gameplay is still there. It's great. I mean, you know, all the tactical strategizing and everything, the punch and even the animations with the combat still have that good punch that you get when, you know, rockets smash into the other side. So maybe it's me being nitpicky, but that's I get it. It feels weird.
Yeah,
it does. It's kind of almost an uncanny valley. Not quite there, but just off enough to be noticeable.
All right, what do you want to say, David?
Oh, I was going to say, as someone who didn't play the original, so does it, and especially with the mentions of like Fire Emblem, is that kind of the style with the tactical, like it's like the block kind of chess system almost, or like how does that work?
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. So you've got every unit's got its own move pattern, got their own attack pattern. So, you know, you'll have artillery that have a diamond around them that they can attack in, or a tank that can move a certain distance, does less damage, or this, you know, that sort of thing. Units of different types can capture buildings differently, and that's going to change. All of that's going to change depending on who your commander is and what their commanding officer powers are. It's good gameplay, and it's still good gameplay. I mean, I would recommend it to you if you like strategy games. I think they did a good job presenting it for a modern audience. Like I said, it's just for fans of the old that are used to those sprites. It's going to be buyer beware. That will probably irk you. And I'm not the only person I've seen that said that sort of thing. So
yeah. Now with you mentioned like COs, commanding officers, and their powers. Like, what's the deal with those?
So as battles progress, that's right. You said you didn't play the original. So as battles progress, every commanding officer has their own unique power, and in the sequel, they get 2 powers. So, for instance, your main character Andy, his specialty is that when he can use his on the battlefield, he repairs 2 damage from all of his units, and that's the sort of thing that you're only going to get to use every 5 to 10 turns. They're not super common, but they can help with things. So like Sammy will be able to, you know, I think she can make her foot soldiers move a lot faster. They're stronger. They can capture buildings easier. Max powers up all of his mobile infantry, like tanks and that sort of thing. And
are these actual like units on the field?
No. So your commanding officers, you're basically assuming the role of the commanding officer.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're there
I'm
for the
that
commanding.
Changes, or do you choose them at the beginning of each round?
So the way the campaign's structured, you're initially going to start as Andy, and then they give you a map that as the campaign progresses, you get different pins on the map, and you can choose basically one of 3 scenarios. You can play as Max, you can play as Andy, you can play as Sammy for all of these, and all of them are going to be against this enemy CO from this nation, or that sort of thing. So you kind of get to pick the scenario, but all of them are going to be different scenarios. You know, ultimately, you're probably going to want to go back and play them all.
That's cool.
And then to expand on it one more time, you can earn currency as you play the campaign. There's an in-game shop you can go buy new maps from. You can go buy commanding officers from. You can buy soundtracks and art, that sort of thing. And when you finish a campaign, you've got several COs that you've bought and put in your pocket. you can go back and do the skirmishes as any of those COs, so you can use their powers
Oh,
in
cool.
battle.
Nice. Awesome.
I think one of the key differences is, you could correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't played Advanced Wars either, but I when it originally came out, I was very like, ooh, I really want to play this. So I was like reading up on all of it. But I think in matches, you can buy new units as you go to obviously give you an advantage in battle, versus whereas Fire Emblem, the way you get units is kind of building a relationship. Like you have to meet up with somebody and talk with them and do all this other thing. Maybe you have to say the right thing in order to get them, something like that. So structurally, they're kind of doing the same thing, but Advanced Wars is more military in that way, where
Yes.
you know, hey, go to this compound, build a unit, very RTS like, and
Yes.
then you can use it. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah, it's all turn-based, but it is definitely much more modern military. So, you know, you can have your units capture cities. That'll get you extra currency every turn. You can have them capture barracks, which will let you put out your land units. You can have naval units and air units. So you can have airfields and naval yards as well. And so it gives you quite a bit of option on ways to approach stuff, because you can have everything from, you know, an APC that'll carry a unit a little further to a lander so that you can transport that across the sea and try to come in the enemy's back door and take out their buildings there, or, you know, fly a bomber in or an aircraft carrier off their coast. I mean, it gives you a lot of ways to play.
I will ask, what is the ultimate goal in Advanced Wars, like per map? Because Fire Emblem is usually like, you know, kill this unit, specific unit, this boss, you know, take over this specific area of the map. What is Advanced Wars?
It's typically either kill all of your enemy's units or get to their headquarters and capture their headquarters.
Okay. Simple enough. But lots of strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you start adding in the water.
With submarines, submarines get the option to dive or surface. I mean, yeah, so there's a lot of options.
Nice.
Getting really annoyed with all of y'all and talking about cool Nintendo games, and like those Nintendo vouchers are sit there, and it makes it really hard for me not to go crazy with those.
You're the one who's been missing out. I'm glad you finally took me up on Fire Emblem.
Yep, I haven't played it yet, but I will be on the way to LA soon, so.
I thought you said you started it.
No, I bought it and installed it.
Oh.
It just managed to come out like right next to Tears of the Kingdom, so.
Yeah. Well, no, you decided to buy it and
pick it up around.
It came out in January. You're 5 months late.
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, that is Advanced Wars. You can read Joe's review on. Say it, Joe.
GeeksUnderGrace.com.
There you go.
Joe, have you done a video review or anything like that for this one?
I have not for this one. So my wife and I have a YouTube channel. A lot of what we do is like music reactions, but I also do game reviews there, video reviews. It's Coffee and Adventure. And let me see real quick what my last video review was. I believe it was Ravenlock. Yeah.
Ravenlock. Okay. Which
It's a good game.
our editor Corvo talked to us about that. Or was that Corvo?
No, it was Noah. It was Noah.
It was you, Noah. Sorry. You were gone last week, so you know the extra week.
You know, it's
messed me up.
if you miss 1 week, you're dead to me, kind of thing. I get it. I get it.
All to wait in line for Zelda. Gosh,
a collector's edition. So.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So you can read that geeksundergrace.com. Advanced Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. All right. I think that is all the video games we're going to talk about. So let us move into news. David, take it away.
Alrighty. So the really big thing that has come through this week is that Overwatch 2's PvE has in fact been scrapped. Essentially what's been said is with Overwatch 2, we're building a cooperative, narrative-driven game experience that players have asked for since the original that we wanted to make for a long time, is what they said. But then in a developer live stream, they decided that development on the PvE experience hasn't really made the progress we would have hoped for. Teams created a bunch of amazing content. So there's awesome missions that are exciting, and there's brand new enemies that are fun to fight. But unfortunately, the effort required to put all of that together into a Blizzard quality experience we can ship to you is huge. There really is no end in sight or defined end date that we can put that into the world. So we're left with the difficult choice. Do we continue to pour all that effort into PvE, hoping that we can do it? Or do we stick with the set of values we've aligned on, focus on the live game, and focus on serving you all? So essentially, they were like, you know what? It isn't worth the effort, especially considering we're making all this money on live service. So let's just focus on live service and use what we built so far to throw in some missions to keep y'all satiated during the seasons.
What a
so
right there.
it is. And Overwatch 2 still is a lot of fun, and it's cool that we're getting some story missions still. It's not like we're losing everything, but we're not getting that cool the skill trees and all this different stuff of a real story mode. That's gone. It's gonna be more like an in-depth event, maybe a little bit more in depth of an event that we were already getting, like with the archive missions, I guess is what they were called. So, but these might have just a little bit more to them, and that's about it. So. Anthony, I know you have to have a lot to say on this, so I'm going to defer over to you because, yeah, this is a game that's near and dear to your heart, and you speak on it a whole lot, especially when it doesn't meet your expectations.
I do. But before I speak on it, Joe, do you have anything to say? Because I need
this
to get
is your only chance. This is your only chance.
I better get it in while I'm able, right?
It's not just me, okay?
Yeah.
Say bad things so I don't sound so bad.
I'm really disappointed with this announcement. This was what I was waiting. I was waiting on this campaign content to go back to the game. I know that I can't really keep up with a lot of modern players. You know, I can't dedicate that kind of time to really get good at Overwatch competitive. And I like that world and the way it controls and all the characters. I was looking forward to the campaign content, so I'm really disappointed to hear this.
All right, is that it?
That'll do, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm just making sure you're the guest here. Okay, I don't want to. Noah and I are about to go off.
Okay.
Is he pulling out his gavel? He's about to judge.
Well, I already put out a video on the Gaming Thread YouTube channel, so you can definitely hear some more thoughts there. But no, this was an absolute gut punch. I play the PvP pretty regularly. I've fallen off because I need to play some other stuff and move on. You know, Star Wars being one of them and all that. But this was an absolute gut punch. And I think what made it feel so bad for me was the fact that it felt deceptive. After 4 seasons, you guys already knew that this wasn't coming out. It's to give Team 4 and Blizzard credit. I didn't expect them to be that candid in the GameSpot interview when they talked about they wanted to communicate. I didn't expect. I'm like, I'm not sure y'all should have said everything here, because some of this seems really bad, and I get it, right? I have empathy and sympathy for developers a lot of the times in terms of business practices, decisions made, and all that. Like, I look at these things, I look at business practices, I look at all that kind of stuff because it is a business, so you have to make business decisions, and sometimes you can't because certain things, it's going to affect the bottom line. I get that. But when you launched Overwatch 2, you already knew PvE was dead. That was a bombshell to me because it told me, okay, Y'all launched Overwatch 2 not because you were trying to get the PvE out there and let just people play it. It's because you already knew PvE was dead. So you're like, okay, we'll just put out the PvP and let people play that. And, once we have something to give people in terms of an announcement, in terms of a roadmap, then we're going to announce that we killed PvE, which that's the only way you could have done this. You couldn't have put out Overwatch 2 and not said, hey guys, and by the way, PvE is not a thing anymore. Like that just would have blown up Overwatch 2 from the get-go, free to play or not. It just would have destroyed it. But this felt like a long distance relationship. Like it was like, oh yeah, things are going well, we're talking all the time, I feel like we're happy, we're smiling, then all of a sudden, oh, you broke up with me. Like, okay, I guess it's done. So and you knew before we got together like this wasn't gonna work out. Oh, okay, wow. So it's just bad. But in terms of, wow, there's just so many different layers to this. They showed it to people at BlizzCon 2019. They let people play it at BlizzCon 2019. I don't think we've ever been okie doked like this in video games ever. You can say what you want about Watch Dogs. This is beyond that. They let people have a little taste of it with their
They won't
hands.
get to play it at this year's BlizzCon, where it's returning again for the first time since 2019.
I know. So yeah, you had people who literally were like, yeah, looks like a great start. We love where this is going. And then you just pull the plug. And look, I get it. I know it wasn't meant to be deceptive. I know that wasn't the intention. I get it. Creative projects can shift. Me, myself, I've shifted all kinds of different creative things that I've done. It's like I have an idea, I rock with it for a little while, all of a sudden it's not working out for whatever reason, I kill it and move on to something else. But game development is like turning a boat. It's not turning a car. It takes a really long time to make any of these creative shifts if something isn't working out that you originally planned. So I understand when you think about the time sink and the money sink and how are you going to work all that stuff out. That is a difficult thing to work around. But at the end of the day, you got to figure it out because now you guys have put yourself in a hole. And this is the problem with live service at this point. The one thing about live service games is you got to keep promising something. You got to keep advertising something to keep people coming back. Hey guys, look, this is what you have to look forward to. And that's what Overwatch got stuck in because they decided it needs more. It needs more than what we think. We have this great idea, and it was a great idea. And because of the live service element, they weren't able to do it because live service is so demanding. And so at this point, I feel like I can't trust Team 4 with whatever they're going to come out with next. Yes, historically, they have done these kind of, archives and story events and all this other stuff, and they have worked and they've been good and they've kept our attention while they're there. But this leaves a sour taste. This is because everything from here is going to be, man, this should have been this thing, and it's not. So in my opinion, at this point, Overwatch has 2 years left. Like, I'm putting a cap on it. Like, this is my prediction. It has 2 years left because they will reach a point. Team 4 will reach a point where they have done everything. They have done these events. They have done these stories and cycle through the same stuff over and over and over. And they're going to wish that they had PvE because at some point we've played it, everything they've thrown at us. And I don't think that they have enough to be able to keep it going any longer than 2 years in an interesting way. And so when I say over in 2 years, I think the player base is just not going to be good enough to justify anything interesting beyond those 2 years. So I wish Blizzard and Team 4 expanded their team to be able to make this PvE. Like, instead of using the resources that you had and split them off to between live service and a PvE. Nah, invest in yourselves. Make the team bigger. Do that. I know that's not an easy thing to do. Blizzard's obviously got financials to think about. But if you really think this idea will hit, and if you really think this thing will be something that can generate money and can keep people's interest and can be something like genuinely fun, not just some like, just thing to throw out there for people and just, it's cheap, it's mediocre, but it's something that's actually good that the people want, which Blizzard generally is known for doing, then you invest in your company, expand the team, and get them to work on that while the live service team continues to do the thing that they do. So there's not as much pressure on them, because clearly this was a decision between PvE and like whatever the frick, what else are we going to do? Because all the story stuff is going into PvE. So we don't want to do too much story stuff. No. You ain't got to worry about that. You do side story stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be like drilled down, like deep lore content. It'd be off stuff, whatever, like what Batman does and, different Marvel comics do. You got your main story and then you got your kind of side comics here and there. So that's what I wish Blizzard did. They didn't. Now we're here. I don't think Overwatch is going to have much legs left. I hope it does, of course, but I think this is going to burn them forever. Like, this is a permanent mark.
I have to ask, do you think this would have happened if Activision hadn't started cracking the whip on financials in the last couple of years?
That's a great question. I think this is more of a live service issue. I think it's specifically just on live service. I think if Overwatch were just a boxed product with updates, I guess kind of what Overwatch was originally, $60, updates, new characters, things like that, loot boxes, whatever the case may be. I don't think it would have been that big of a deal. But because it is a live service now, particularly free to play, there's a different pressure there because there is no other money coming in from people having bought a $60 or $70 product. It is strictly what you buy in the store. And so you have to continually figure out, how do we get people to buy things without making them feel like FOMO or we're just gouging them, which a lot of people are upset at the legendary prices. I'm not. I get how these things are priced compared to the rest of the market in other games. They're priced pretty similarly. Just Overwatch players aren't used to it. So I'm not really tripping over that. But point being, this is how they feel. Perspective is reality, whatever the phrase is. I can't think of it. But perception. There we go. Perception is reality. This is their perception. So Blizzard's got to figure out, how do we do this? How do we do this? They can't make PvE and do all this other stuff at the same time. Resources, all that. This was the thing. We're sacrificing live service, the thing that we put out in order to make this PvE. And they can't do it. So the other option they could have done is not even release Overwatch 2 until the PvE was done, right? So my thing was, Overwatch could have just died and just, player base is super small. That's all right. Y'all made a whole bunch of money because in hindsight, now that we know how these things are priced in the store, everybody was overpaying for them loot boxes for all this stuff. So y'all made your money. So take that money, take your time, make the well, not take your time, but make your PvE. And then when it's ready, launch Overwatch 2. And it's the huge revival for Overwatch. And everybody's back. And everybody's like, oh, shoot, it's 5v5. It's got all this stuff. And everybody's cool. But they wanted to keep the live service going. So this is the sacrifice that they had to make.
Yep. I think it speaks to the hopeful realization that video game companies can kind of take note of, is that live service is not as easy as what they think. And I'm hoping that this, I don't want to call it a failure, but this realization kind of deters every other company from putting out some live service game, because you you just cannot keep up with the market and what the market wants. I look at Bungie. What they've done for so long is incredible. Putting out PvE content like they have, which has made the PvP side suffer. So it's kind of a reverse situation, where they sacrificed the PvE to keep the PvE content rolling and updating, and new stuff. So it's kind of a reverse thing. I'm very disappointed. Like I had broken up with Overwatch 2. I moved on and realized that there are much better, more options to like put my gaming time into, and so I was like, I was waiting for the PvE to come back. That's what was going to be my big return and stuff. And now it's like, well, I'm glad I moved on. And I'm totally empathetic with them that this can't be a decision that they're like, it'll be fine. They know what they were doing. And they knew that the recoil that was going to happen when they announced this. They knew, and they did it it's one of those situations where you're trying to over explain to someone why you're making a decision, and in doing so, you're making it worse.
Yeah.
That is my biggest thing. Like if they would have said like, hey, we're having to scrap this because we can't produce the content that we expect ourselves to make and that you expect us, to give, we can't, achieve what we promised, and that's on us, and we're going to transition, and we're in, transition all this. We're going to put some of it that we had planned into the live service model, into our battle pass, our seasonal content, that kind of thing, and kind of break it up like what Bungie does, a little mode every season, but instead they went into detail saying, oh yeah, we knew about this back, and it's like, so you lied to us.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it very much feels that way and comes across that way. And they're trying to
be all omission.
They're trying to be all PR about it and like, oh well, we, this, and it's like, no, bare bones, guys. Like you deceived us. We feel deceived, especially with how far back they knew they had to shift. They should have immediately called that out, which they kind of couldn't, because they needed Overwatch 2 to come out, because not only were the fan base tired of waiting with no content, the Overwatch League was tired and kind of almost forced their hand to put the Overwatch 2 patch on to get viewership. That they were begging for viewership.
Good point. Yep.
Even though they lost all their sponsors because of other things and out of their control.
Oh yeah.
But that's beside the point. It's a lot of not necessarily bad decisions. It's things that happened that accumulated into eventually, how did we end up here? Well, now we see. It's disappointing, and I feel bad for them having to go through the growing pains of a live service. Evidently, they think that they're going to be successful enough with their PvP stuff right now that they can rely solely on that to fund the game. I don't know how long that, which, we don't know the numbers. So, they could be doing very well with their battle passes and the skins and stuff, but I don't see that, being their main thing, but evidently they do, which is totally, they're right. Aside from the deceiving, my biggest issue is the padding that they have done to soften the blow, because it's not as bad as, PvE scrapped. The way they're wording the content that they're going to be putting into the game, as we're going to have some PvE content, interactions and unique enemies and stuff. I don't like that wording, because PvE content to me is like standalone RPG style content, not, hey, we're going to put in a story mission where you fight a couple turrets, you go sit on a point, you fight some more turrets, you sit on a point, which is what a lot of their stuff is. That can be events. Don't call that PvE content, because it's really not. It technically is, but it's not. And that's one of my biggest issues. Is they're trying to say that we're still keeping a lot of that stuff in the game, when in actuality it's going to be reused assets, reused maps with a couple of objectives tied in. Yeah, it's rough right now. So hopefully they can straighten things out. Because I'm very curious to what they're calling these story missions, and experiences. Because I don't know about you guys, but did you play the Star Watch event, Anthony?
Yes, I
With the
talked about that.
PvP?
Yeah, I talked about that
Okay.
last week.
Okay, yeah, that is not a good sign if that's what they call PvEVP content. So yeah,
Right. I forgot it was
just
PvEVP.
like
As I'm playing PvE, it just feels like PvP.
Unless like these new story missions, and if they come out and say, hey, this one for season, which they might have said like, hey, this stuff that we've been cooking is like launching with season 7, however long, if we know that that's the new stuff, we can kind of get an expectation that it might be different. It might be better than like Junkenstein or the archive missions, because that's just, we're going to put you in a section of the map and let you shoot a few bots, and that's your mission. Replayable, not going to be, in my opinion. People will hop in, play it once or twice, then hop out, and probably not touch it again. So I'm hoping that Overwatch doesn't go back to being a, meme of the only people who play it are going to play it forever. It's such a small player base. But only time will tell. But it's disappointing. Like I'm Diablo 4 is coming out pretty soon, so that's what I'm looking forward to. So
yeah, so full disclosure, Blizzard does give me free battle passes every season, and I don't care. I'm criticizing them. Like this is awful. This is a horrible thing, and that's why I predict they got 2 years. That's it. There's just based on the history of Overwatch.
Yep.
Where they had 6 events per season, and they reduced it to 3 events this season. Now, yes, they're saying in season 6 they're going to have more stuff, and the seasons after that are going to have more. That's fine. You totally do that. But how often are you going to be able to produce that for the next 2 years? Meanwhile, we're still going to have the same Lucille Ball and the Lunar New Year event and the Winter Wonderland and the same stuff, the Valentine's Day event, all the same stuff that we've been rotating for a while. The terrible, Gods of Olympus event, whatever that crap was, for the next 2 years. That's what we're gonna do. With some story stuff in there. I don't think it has the legs to keep people that long.
It depends on how many skins they put out and how many skins they buy. That will fund the game. If people get fed up with it,
if people are coming back, there's nobody who's going to buy the stuff, right? So like they have to produce it's the same thing with the Xbox. You got to have games, and in this case, you got to have content. Yep. So if the content is mediocre or tired, the people ain't gonna come back. Oh yeah, okay, I know. I've played that event for. They're gonna have episode 2 of Overwatch. Great.
Yeah.
They have their next version of that. Fantastic. I'll give them credit. Junkenstein's Revenge 2, that was fun. That was good. But again, you play it 3 or 4 times. You get your little high scores. You try hard mode, legendary mode. All right, cool. Play with your friends a few times. All right, we're done. You either play the PvP or you're out. And now that there's none consistent for PvE, unless they just release PvE, this is just a mode where you just play all the PvE stuff, however often you want. But that's still not good enough because there's nothing fundamentally different from it versus PvP other than you're shooting bots. Otherwise, it's standing on a point, doing everything that you just talked about, Noah. It's
not like they have, and we have unique enemies. It's like you can have unique enemies, but if they run the same path that every other bot is coded to run, it doesn't matter. You got to have unique interactions with your enemies if you're going to have these story missions. Because otherwise, it's like, we said, you're going to stand on the point, they're going to run in a straight line at you because that's what they're coded to run, and you're just going to get bored. So I had a thought and I just lost it. But like, I really hope that, I remember I thought, I have expectations now with them, gutting this RPG replayable mission stuff. That stuff, for the most part, for what they've been working on, should be close to done. I think the content, that they wanted, they won't be able to make the mass, or they weren't able to do the mass, production of it for a full standalone. We better be getting some 2 heroes a season pass, or, a map, an extra map, another mode. There better be more added on substantially in the next upcoming seasons than, one new map every other season, one new hero every other season. Like I know they said they're returning a fan favorite map, which I'm like, if they bring Assault back as their fan favorite map,
Hanamura,
yeah, like
Temple of Anubis.
I'm just like,
I kill me before we go to Anubis again.
Yeah, exactly. So I think expectations need to be set higher for the seasons now, because it's like, we know that you guys have some stuff because you said you have some stuff. It just makes me really mad that I waited all those years when Overwatch 1 had no content, being like, hey, it's okay. Overwatch 2, we're getting all this, standalone stuff. We're getting a full PvE experience. It's fine. This is what they're working on. And to know that, all that time's wasted, it definitely, like you said, sour tastes in, so I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, I miss Jeff. At least Jeff would comfort me. He was so good at comforting, even during the bad news. So
yeah,
I miss Papa Jeff so bad.
What's interesting is, at least the things that I've read, is Jeff's original intention was for Overwatch to be more similar to Counter-Strike, in that he made the game and it stayed the same. It was the fact that fans clamored for content, and suddenly they had to add stuff.
That's why he was leaving, because Overwatch was going to swap to, more live servicey, and he's OG.
It had already pushed
Blizzard
that way, yeah.
Yeah, he's OG Blizzard philosophy. That's not him. They want to cook as much as time as they need to. And then when they finally put out their product, it's, pristine. Yep. Whereas, live service nowadays, it's like, hey, if it will launch it, we'll patch it, and they'll be fine. Kind of a mindset. So
I mean, this is to me, this is gonna sound crazy, but this is worse than Halo Infinite. Imagine if Halo Infinite launched their multiplayer and then they're like, hey guys, sorry, campaign is gone.
We knew about this a year ago. We just kept promising that PvE is coming. Like, that's right. And we've let you play the PvE portions.
Right. We gave you a vertical slice of what this could be. We gave you literally a little piece of the cake. You try it. You tested it. You said it was good. All right, just wait. Oh, sorry guys, we can't do it. That hurts every time I say it.
And like I said, just stop. Just Aaron, shush. Stop. Explain. They should have just said, "Hey, we've made the decision today. We can't. We're not gonna be able to do this. So from here point forward, we're gonna, interweave the stuff that we've worked on. We're gonna interweave it into the seasons and try to make those a beefier experience for you guys. To make the battle pass seem a better value. That kind of PR lingo. But no, you had to be like, yeah, we've known about it for a while.
Yeah,
that just, it's just disappointing. And like I said, it was not a decision that they were happy about. I know that they were upset about it. And it's a very unfortunate and sucky situation. It just, man, That's about all I can say without getting more depressed.
Team 4 feels like the young adult who enters the grown-up room and is like, hey guys, like, I know you guys do things this way, but we want to do this. And the culture of Blizzard has traditionally been, we're not going to say nothing until we got this thing right and tight. And then Team 4 comes in and they're like, we want to communicate and we want to talk to the people and all of that. And so they decide, we're going to show you this thing we're working on, because also part of, the whole live service culture that you have to keep goading people with stuff, enticing them with things. But that's not the Blizzard way. They stepped outside of the culture of Blizzard, and now they are answering for it. And it feels just like y'all the youngins in the room. Like, they've been doing this for a while. You got the Diablo team, World of Warcraft. They've been doing it. God knows they've been doing it. So StarCraft, even, like, you got all these old heads in here be like, not team, don't do it. Don't do it. And then they go out and do it. World of Warcraft is just going about their business. Diablo 4 is going about their business. We told you. We ain't gonna say nothing, but we told you. Rough. I mean, look at Diablo 4 right now. Look at the praise for it that it's getting from the betas and stuff. Like, it is, everybody's like, this is great.
Like I said, I have moved on. And I'm not looking back. I was looking back a little over my shoulder, like, hey, are you guys still doing okay? Oh, I think you'll be good in a bit. Like, I'm gonna let you do your thing. We'll talk whenever you fix yourself. You sort yourself out, and you look back and you're like, hey, yep. I'm just gonna keep.
Noah's on to playing Call of Duty with me, so
until June 6th, and then we'll have to. I think I'll have to be. You guys have to fight for custody. Like, okay, we got him Saturday from 6 to 8, like.
Yeah, seriously.
That's all I'm gonna live for.
Eventually I will be with you as well on June 6th. And I just feel like, I'm still gonna cover Overwatch just because, as David does with Call of Duty, so I do with Overwatch as well. I still like the game. I'm still gonna play the game. I'll check out the events and share my opinion and share if they're doing great or not. But, with what I've played of the Diablo betas, I'm like, y'all gonna have a really hard time keeping me around Team 4 with Overwatch.
I think my final statement on it is a and I'll vary it a little bit, but there was a Parks and Rec episode where a lovely gentleman named Ron Swanson said, never put half effort into two things. Put 100% effort into one thing.
Yep.
And make that perfect. So I'm hoping that this will now be a lesson learned. So
all right.
Well spoken.
Oh, I made it up myself. Thank you.
After just referencing Parks and Rec.
Yep. This is where goldfish brain would really come in handy for people.
Well, we've talked a lot about Overwatch, and now it's back to Zelda because it is the fastest selling game in the history of the franchise. They sold 10 million units in the first 3 days. It's the fastest selling Nintendo game for any system in Europe and the Americas. And it sold a bunch in Japan too. It's just sold lots and lots and lots. The craziest thing is this whole thing where everybody keeps talking about the $70 price tag and how it's hurting all these games. Well, last I checked, Modern Warfare sold more than any Call of Duty game, and they had $70 copies, as well as Zelda just sold broke records. And yeah, so 10 million copies. What do we think about that, gents?
Isn't that about a third of the lifetime sales of Breath of the Wild already?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
That is bananas numbers.
Well, here's the other thing. You're never getting a traditional Zelda game again as long as you live.
No, I disagree.
Al
I
Numa basically said
100%
that, though, right?
disagree. I 100% see. Here's the thing: the NBA had two eras, right? Pre 3-pointer and post 3-pointer, right? So it was, and you argue about, oh, who was the greatest in whatever era and whatever and whatnot, and it's like, well, it's kind of hard to compare because there were two different kind of play styles that they had to do. So now, if you compare it, Zelda has two different eras. They have traditional Zelda, and now they have kind of, I guess, innovative, creative Zelda, and both can exist. Both can exist at the same time. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make, two Zelda games per year, one traditional, one, Breath of the Wild style, but now Nintendo has the option to be able to bounce between either of them. And I can guarantee you, Breath of the Wild Zelda fans will still buy traditional Zelda. And of course, traditional Zelda fans will buy. I mean, the traditional Zelda fans are buying Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. So they both can exist. And when the creativeness of Tears of the Kingdom becomes a bit tired, they could just go back to a bit of traditional Zelda, spice it up a little bit. Both can exist. I think this is actually a really good position for Nintendo and Zelda right now.
It is. I think it's interesting though because of the fact that like Twilight Princess, which was obviously one of the best received Zelda games at that point in time, it sold 8.85 million copies, and that's it.
Yeah,
on one of the most selling Nintendo consoles.
I'm sorry, which one was that again?
The GameCube wasn't one of the highest
The Wii.
selling.
It came out on the Wii. It launched on the Wii.
It came on the GameCube too. So
it still launched. It was a launch title though.
Okay.
Because we could also claim that Breath of the Wild was a Wii U game.
Yes. I think the difference is Twilight Princess still wasn't actually that great. So I think that bore out in sales. So personally,
I'm just looking at it in that sales kind of thing. Then you've got Tears of the Kingdom that outsold it the entirety of that lifetime in 3 days.
The opening weekend. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're coming off the back of Breath of the Wild, so yes.
You're welcome, Nintendo. I helped.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it makes it harder for those to exist when we put this out and we make this kind of money.
So yeah, I mean, companies the size of Nintendo are risk averse, and to see that they've taken risk doing new things, and it bore out with those kinds of sales, like I understand why they would be reticent. I mean, wasn't it Al Numa recently came out and said this is the new template? So
did he say that?
I think so.
Wow.
Yep, with like their openy worldy, like
Okay,
style.
yeah, I didn't hear that quote. Okay.
That Breath of the Wild style term lingo. I like that.
He'd said that Ocarina of Time was the previous template. Now this is going to be the new template going forward. Now, but even with Ocarina of Time, we've gotten traditional Zelda games in there. So yeah, I think we're still going to see the traditional stuff on occasion.
Yeah. 2 days ago, he said he finds the Ocarina of Time format a bit restricting now. That's what he said specifically.
Well,
but that's in terms of design, not necessarily. Oh, this sold bukus. I'm leaving the other thing behind.
yeah, absolutely. I think the struggle is now, and I was excited about the idea of, they said it will have traditional dungeons. Tears of the Kingdom has traditional dungeon. I'm like, okay. Then I hear from other people, it's like, they're kind of more expansive divine beasts. It's like, oh, okay, well, fine then. So now I think there's going to be, if this is the new template, then it is a template. And the template is this form of Zelda is a creative Zelda, not a conquering Zelda. Like traditional Zelda is more about conquering things. This is more about the creativity, which is why I'm design-wise okay with the idea of weapon breaking. I hate it, but I get why it is there now because it forces you to be more creative in combat, and they want this Breath of the Wild style of Zelda to be top to bottom a creative experience. And so now Aonuma, how do you say his name again?
Aonuma?
Aonuma. I feel like there's some extra letters in there that I was missing.
Yeah.
But as I was saying it, like I saw his name and I was like, wait a minute, is there another O in there? Anyway, so his struggle will be, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom seems to be as, I mean, obviously we've proven wrong, but Tears of the Kingdom seems to be like as buku, like just do whatever that you want as you can go. Like it seems like they've already reached the peak. So then it's the challenge of, can they actually do traditional Zelda with a more creative touch on it instead of it being as restrictive as a Ocarina of Time, for example? Can they combine a 70% Breath of the Wild with maybe more traditional style dungeons while not sacrificing the creativity? I think that'll be an interesting challenge, because I think with this, it's either you do this and maybe change up some different abilities and have a new map, or you kind of try to weave both of them in some way, but still keeping the creative template that this Breath of the Wild style is.
Yep. And I mean, if there's a team that could figure it out, it's obviously this team, because this is just, I mean,
Breath of the Wild was nuts when they launched it. So yeah, I agree.
This team is just so smart about it. Like there's something to be said about having the right team. And Nintendo, man, people, you can tell people the best want to work for them because they're putting out stuff that is the best. Like it doesn't always sell the best, no, but it's almost always good. And that's a testament to people being in the room, especially when you consider, I mean, once again, we've already talked about what they're managing to get out of a 7-year-old system that is by all rights way more underpowered than its next-gen brethren. There are games out there that don't achieve half of what Breath of the Wild is achieving at 30 frames per second, 720p. Like, what game can you dive out of the sky directly down into a map without, like, I mean, it's incredible. It really is.
Flawless, too, yeah.
Like, is there not pop-in? Sure, there is, but the spectacle and the scale of all of it is still there. So beyond that, we also got a chance to see the top-selling stuff for April, because, video games have been coming out all the time. And crazy enough, Star Wars Jedi Survivor was the top-selling game of April, and that's with 2 days on the market. 3, I guess you could technically say, because 28th, 29th, and 30th. But the fact that it managed to grab the #1 spot, especially considering we do have a lot of great games still that have come out so far this year, is a testament to it. We saw Dead Island take the #2 spot, which is pretty good for Dead Island. Had MLB
good,
The Show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, once again, it's game that everybody left for dead.
And now it's back for blood.
Not yet. Dying Light. Let's throw that in there somewhere. I mean, it went for 9 years and 3 developers. That game was in development hell to come out and manage to be the #2 on the sales charts with 9 to 10 days to do it. Pretty good. MLB The Show was at #3, which it remained at. Resident Evil 4 fell to 4, which was the #1 game last month. Modern Warfare at #5, and a couple other. There's not really a lot of crazy stuff on the list. Advance Wars actually made it to =15, which Nintendo doesn't do digital, so that's actually a pretty good spacing.
4 to 15.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of repeats. Somehow Mario Kart 8 is at #10. Because Mario Kart 8 just continues to sell.
That game. I'm like, doesn't everybody have this already?
I know. Every time you think everyone has Mario Kart.
Mario Kart and GTA 5.
Every Christmas season, Mario Kart is the #1 selling game. It is bonkers.
Yeah. I was mainly, like I said, some of it was just wanting to point out some specifics. Like, for instance, new Super Mario Brothers came in at number 16, and Super Mario 3D
What?
World was number 20.
It had to be the movie.
Yeah,
It was the movie. That's that's
yeah,
more what I was
yeah.
kind of pointing at with it.
Yeah.
But again, Nintendo doesn't provide digital sales. So to me, that's even more impressive when the Nintendo game makes it on that list, because it's way higher most likely than what it actually is listed at. And then of course the Switch ended up being the top selling system in terms of units, where PlayStation was top in terms of revenue made, dollars. So
Oh, yeah, then
again,
more
Zelda and Mario helping out the Switch a lot here in the very end of it. Any surprises? Any thoughts on the different things that are on the list?
in terms of Star Wars, Jedi Survivor, this I've been playing it and I've gotten further and I'm enjoying the frick out of it. And
Awesome.
this is the standard by which Disney will want video game stories to be told from now on. I think what they've done with it, yes, it's not, perfect from top to bottom, but man, I watched so much Star Wars growing up, and it's in my blood, even though I haven't been watching Star Wars as much. And you play this game and I'm like, I feel like I am in the Star Wars universe right now. Like this is the Star Wars game. And it's not this overly cinematic game. I'm not trying to punch down at Sony games, but when I say that, but
we'll give you a chance later to hate on
that
Sony games.
That comes later.
No, I really don't hate. Like Sony
we know.
They've been dogging me on Discord. Okay, we're joking about console war stuff. But it's an actual difficult game. It's truly got gameplay that you have to think about things and master things and all that, and that part of it does bring you into the idea of what it might feel like to be a Jedi a little bit. I have some issues with the whole the power dynamic between like some of the just regular ads and how they have to tone the strength of a Jedi in order to kind of make it fair. But overall, like this is the formula right here, and all you do from now on is just perfect it. Maybe it doesn't always have to be a Dark Soulsy type of game, but in terms of the way the game feels and plays, you can alternate in and out of, maybe we don't need meditation circles and all that stuff and resets with rests and whatnot, but it sells well. And it bears fruit that a good story in a Star Wars video game is possible. Disney is now convinced, I am sure. Hopefully they don't come out and be like, oh, we're disappointed in the sales of, but the sounds.
From what EA said, they're very happy with the sales. So
I would believe so, because I think the first one they were kind of like, yeah, it was good, and this one they're like, yeah, oh, there we go.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so glad they gave him a second one. Most surely we'll have a third one, and I trust Respawn to be able to expand and fortify these ideas.
especially since you'll have even more time under your belt and even more console power to work with, most likely. Here's just to hoping that it comes out a little less buggy when the third one comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Moving forward, we get into the kick punching of everything. Warner Brothers Games and NetherRealm has announced Mortal Kombat 1. I made a joke on Twitter that Mortal Kombat 1, it's the one fighting game you will play. There will be launchers in the menu for Street Fighter, Tekken, and Smash Brothers. If you're on the Switch version. Make a little Xbox One joke there.
Yep.
Mortal Kombat 1. So the idea of this one, I don't know if y'all have watched the trailer for it, but the idea of this one is that in Mortal Kombat 11, Liu Kang becomes a god, essentially, and is able to reshape the world. And using time. Essentially, he essentially reshapes it using an hourglass of time and stuff. And what we're moving into is literally time. We're moving into a reborn universe with reimagined characters, and they say unexpected twists on classic rivalries, different things like that. So it's just I'm very intrigued to see where they go, because it is a big risk in the sense of these games since the reboot from 9, which admittedly we've had a full trilogy of these fighting games. They've been able to do a lot with the story. You're taking a risk in the sense of, certain characters aren't there anymore. Possibly characters that people really love and want to see may not be in this game that we've had from the last ones. Has anybody who has watched the trailer for Mortal Kombat?
Me, for those who
Jeez,
are
that
just
is
listening.
all of us have.
All
So
of us, yeah.
jeez, that thing is brutal.
I can't believe that. That's like a Red Band trailer, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm watching them. I was actually getting uneasy.
I was too.
They did such a good job with the gore and sound.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm watching it on a phone and being queasy. Like I'm not even like, headset and nice screen. This is just so I can't even imagine.
David, usually when certain video game trailers come out, he'll be like, hey, this came out. I watched it on my phone. Like, wait until it's on a bigger, on your 4K. He'll tell me like, wait and, appreciate it.
Get the 5.1.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This one, I can feel David's like,
Oh,
don't
no.
watch it on a big screen. Like,
Do not get surround sound involved.
Yeah.
Listen to it with the most tinny speakers you can find.
Yeah.
So the
240p.
what is interesting is this is a next gen only game in terms of the mainline consoles and PlayStation and Xbox. It's not
So it'll
coming
be
to
on the
PS4,
Switch. Great.
but it actually is coming to Nintendo Switch.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
They're probably going to stream it.
So it is either
yeah.
well, and here's the interesting thought on that though, is while that's a thought, fighting games are not something you want to play through the cloud.
Oh,
No.
not at all.
So I'm curious as to if they might have. I don't remember if it was a separate studio that built the Switch version of Mortal Kombat 11, but I could see it getting its own port, its own version of whatever this is.
As it should.
But how this thing's gonna look great on being developed only for these new gen consoles. I know we've got Street Fighter 6 shortly, but we're getting this in September. Is this possibly one of the greatest years ever for fighting game fans?
And didn't they announce a new Tekken as well? I can't remember.
Tekken 8 has already been announced and is technically on the schedule for this year. Could still get delayed, but is still technically on the schedule.
I mean,
It's
all
been a
I need
long
personally
time.
is Soul Calibur, and I'll be fine.
Well, the way this year's going, just give it a second.
Yeah.
I know.
A new Virtua Fighter.
And here comes Smash Brothers, King of Fighters. Here we go.
Yeah. Like last minute entry. Here we go.
Evo's just like, calm down, guys.
No, this is certainly this is a strong showing for fighting games right now. That's for sure. I grew up on fighting games, so seeing Street Fighter kind of return to its roots and be what it is as a competitive game, but also kind of it embraces casuals a little bit more now. That demo was fantastic. I can't wait till the full game comes out. So that's a great start. And then you got Mortal Kombat. I'm not sure how much. I guess I was reading up on it, and I guess I don't know. The wording is weird, but it sounds like it'll have some tag teamish type of things going on with it.
It almost sounds like the trophy fighters from Smash Brothers to a degree. Cameo fighters is what they're saying. A unique roster of partner characters that can assist during matches.
Yeah, so that could be tag team Marvel versus Capcom ish. It could be, like you said, Smash kind of trophy. They come in, do some stuff, and then pop out. I don't know if that will be, but I think the core of what they've built from Mortal Kombat 9, I think that will generally be the same. I think stylistically, we're looking at this is I think this is Mortal Kombat Street Fighter 4. So, when they switched to that new engine and the whole graphic style and all of it, like it was still Street Fighter, but man, it just had a certain punch to it. And now we're here at Street Fighter 6, and they've kind of perfected it. This is, I think, their Street Fighter 4. So I'm looking forward to it. I think built on the Mortal Kombat 9 model though.
Well, it's definitely it's been a good size layoff because the Mortal Kombat 11 came out in 2019, and this is of course 2023 when this one's coming out.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat
9 through 11.
10 had a 4-year, and then 9 had a 4-year. So I mean, it's about the same, but it feels like every time they've iterated, they've done a really good job with the iterations compared to how it was just kind of everything was coming out all a year after. back in the early 2000s on, and then they did DC Universe, which was absolute garbage. So
we'll say they always do great story modes.
Yes,
and that's what I'm really looking forward to. With Street Fighter, 5 came out. I got 2 copies when it first came out, one for PC, one for PlayStation, because they were interplayable. And I had my fight stick. There was no story mode. And as an early adopter, I felt severely burned by Street Fighter 5, where I went to Mortal Kombat and ate it up because that campaign was so good.
Yep.
So,
I've always enjoyed the fact of the Mortal Kombat Injustice as well, but the story modes are a really good spot to learn how to use all of the characters and learn their moves, because of the fact of they just switch you as you continue on. So you're forced to get to know different characters rather than just jump in the story, pick my favorite, and then just work my way through.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool way and good way of it, and that it actually got me playing fighting games again because of I was actually enjoying my time with it. So
go play some Street Fighter 6.
Oh, I plan on that. I did download the demo.
Oh yeah, good. You should play that. Don't do the Fire Emblem thing. Joe, how do you feel about Street Fighter 6?
I got hands on with the demo. I actually swore off Street Fighter after 5.
Oh.
And I'm eating my words because I played the demo for 6 and I really like it, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So
it is good.
I'm gonna get right back into it. I grew up on 2, so
looking forward to using this.
Oh,
what is that, David?
Nice.
Can you please explain what that thing is that you're showing off on the screen?
It's the Victrix PD Pro controller from PDP, and it has essentially you can swap out the right side buttons and analog stick with a fight pad. So
does it have a USB lock though?
No, it does not.
Oh.
Oh, Joe, we have to show you the clip.
Okay, do that.
We will have to show you the clip. Yes.
That's David doing his thing. Yeah. He either brags about how he doesn't play his Switch or shows off the peripherals that he has.
I do have a lot of peripherals. But,
you do, and you kind of.
I'll say this: I do love that controller. That's actually what I use when I play Call of Duty for the 4 back buttons.
Clickety-click.
Yep. And now we get into the fun part of where we are going to face each other in a fight, because the Sony PlayStation Showcase is back.
And guess what? We get to watch it just like their games.
We're going to vault you in a second. Okay, so
I did appreciate the vaulted joke about me from the last week. I did appreciate that. I was like the Leo meme, like, oh, I get the reference,
Exactly. So there's so something I will point out that I actually saw when I was looking through, I was listening to Kinda Funny's reaction on the PlayStation Showcase being announced, and they brought up that in September of 2021, the last time we got a showcase, it was 42 minutes long. Of September of 2020, which was when they showed off the kind of the launch lineup and everything, gave some of the features. That was 47 minutes long. June 2020, which was our first time seeing anything of what was coming for PlayStation 5, it was an hour and 14 minutes.
By the way, that was a fantastic showcase.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember that one.
When PlayStation does a proper showcase, it usually is fantastic. But the cool thing is the verbiage that they actually used in that 2020 show is the digital showcase will run for a bit more than an hour. They have repeated that in the current blog post for this 2023 show, that it says the showcase will run for a bit more than an hour. Meaning, first thing I thought was, okay, we'll probably be like, 5 minutes over, maybe. Now, we could be upwards of 15 minutes extra, so this could be a good 75-minute show. And when we talk about 75 minutes, there's a whole lot of video game you can shove into 75 minutes worth of a show, especially when you've got some things which are 2-minute trailers. Now, we know that's not going to be the brunt of it, but what we do want to do is have a little fun fantasy draft and go a couple rounds and make some predictions, see who gets the bragging rights next week. Joe will not most likely be with us, but if he wins, we promise that we will give him his props.
What's
But
this
as he,
I'm not telling him. If there's going to be no one.
as Joe is the guest, we have given him the first pick of the draft.
Well, before we start, explain how this draft works so that the people understand what we're doing. Because with a draft, you take on, you get the player and you keep the player. So how are we doing this?
So we're gonna go for 3 rounds with with a 4th wild card round. We are going to essentially everything except for Spider-Man 2, which at this point Spider-Man 2 is there. It's a bit of a freebie. We're going to go through and we're going to pick what games we think are going to show up at the showcase, and we will kind of base our points off of who gets what right. Essentially, now we are being more general. So if it's a quick show up or if it has a extended gameplay look, there's not going to be additional points for guessing anything specific. It is just going to be on the side of Spider-Man 2 showed up, 1 point to Gryffindor. So we're starting again with Joe, and we are going to go snake draft through these 3, just so that way it's fair to everyone. That way, as Noah is at the end of the round, he will get to be at the beginning of the second round. So, okay. Joe, is there anything else we need to explain on that one, Anthony?
No, I think we're good.
Okay,
let's go.
We're good. Okay, Joe, what do you think's going to show up? I'm keeping the secretary's notes here. So,
my first pick is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh,
okay, that's a good pick.
So why do you think that one is showing up?
I think we're due up for some sort of, at least a trailer or something, right? Like, it's been a couple of years since Remake was out, and people have had time the team's had time to do some development, and I think we're gonna at least see, if nothing else, at least a teaser for Rebirth.
I mean, technically they did say it's coming in the winter of 2023, or in the winter of so it could still be 2024. Teaser, right? Yeah, it still could be 2024, but that could just mean it's in January, February, and I highly doubt PlayStation is sticking in the next 6 months, because we know what limiting your time becomes when you do a show based on a certain time frame. So my pick is the next in the draft, and This is actually a bit of a tough one,
It's
but
only the second pick, man.
I'm thinking that the rumored Metal Gear Solid remake
Oh, we're
is
picking
going
that
to
one.
show up there.
Interesting.
Supposedly, Konami has done exclusive deals with PlayStation on, we've heard Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hill 2. One of those has already been confirmed. And I and a friend had some good sources that we knew about Silent Hill 2 happening years before now. And if Konami is willing to go ahead and set that up with them, why not with Metal Gear? Why not with Castlevania, as we're hearing about? But I'm going to go with the pick that I think is a little bit more realistic of the two in Castlevania and Metal Gear, and go with Metal Gear Solid. That
Okay.
is my pick.
Just out
Anthony,
of curiosity,
go ahead.
Just,
Yeah.
do you think it's going to be remakes?
Yes,
Or
I
a
think
brand new?
I think it's a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid is what I think it's actually going
The
to be.
PlayStation 1 Solid.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would be interesting. All right, it is my pick. I am not here to necessarily win. I am here to guess the biggest, like, ridiculous stuff, because if that is the case, I will have mad
I'll
bragging
give you mad
rights.
props. I'll give you mad props.
So, with my first pick, am going to go with The Last of Us multiplayer
Ooh,
that
factions.
they've been doing. Factions. Yes, that is what I am going with as my first pick. I think it's. I don't think they're going to show a whole bunch of it. If because I don't think it would come out this year. But I do think it's worth giving an update on it, considering all this Last of Us stuff. I think they want to keep that Last of Us vibe going, keeping people's interest in it, and let people know, hey, we're doing all this stuff with the single player Last of Us. We didn't put in the multiplayer with the remastered version, the part 1. And so, want to let you know, check this out, trailer. And they do something, and that'll be it.
With Factions 2 is actually one of the ones I was looking at on my list when I was prepping for this, and I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they put a date on it and put a beta in place for
Ooh.
pre-order. Just like I think that they are, as you said, trying to ride that Last of Us train, and I think that they are ready to. They're putting, this is a showcase. You are showing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Noah, where are you at?
Oh, hopefully still here and not having tech issues. So for my first pick, the weeb in me is front and center. I am predicting we're going to get a new CyberConnect fighting game.
Oh.
I don't know who, or what franchise. I've heard rumors that it might be like all coming together, like Jump Force esque, but, and I don't want to pick a, specific property. So I'm going to go with CyberConnect is the best, I think, for the job. So I'm going with a new game by them. I think we're due for a new fighting game.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, the snake
And
draft
so-
comes back to you. So what's your
Oh, I wonder
what's your
who's going,
second
yeah.
pick?
Second
So
round.
this is a bit of a wild card, but it's mostly because I am hoping I can will this game to be presented and shown off. I think it's time for Ghost of Tsushima 2 to get announced.
Ooh.
That's what I am desperately wanting to just hear about. Like, even if it's
I'm
just
right
a
there with you.
title. So that's one of my favorite games of past generation. So
Taking a banger off the board.
well, you took my Last of Us MP, so
Oh.
so I will.
That's why I prepared like 2 choices for each one of mine.
All right, who has the second pick in round 2?
You do, Mr.
Oh,
Anthony.
we're going backwards. Okay, yeah, snake draft. All right, so we've heard about it. I do wonder the financials around it, but with my second pick, in the 2023 PlayStation Showcase Draft, I will pick the PlayStation 5 Pro.
Ooh.
Oh.
I didn't even think about systems. Nice.
I didn't either.
My
There
man,
has
he's
been a lot
stealing
of
my
chatter,
picks.
though.
He's stealing my picks. Like,
Nice. I like it. It's spicy. Very spicy. So for mine, I'm picking the game that I get the feeling that it's still coming out this year and was plucked out as as a third party exclusive. I'm going with Stellar Blade, which I am very much looking forward to. That game looks like it's just insane. Just how fast it's going to move, that Devil May Cry kind of weird. I don't know what's going on, but I'm having a lot of fun pressing X.
Yeah.
Pressing square.
Forgot about
Like,
that one.
I am looking forward to doing all of the things in that game because it looks pretty, it looks fun, it looks fast, it looks furious, and it's all about family. Not really. Joe, what do you got for us for the second round?
All right. I know Ubisoft kind of said this one was in stasis, but I'm hoping we'll get something for Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh,
Whoa.
wow, that's a big one
Wow.
for that.
During the PlayStation Showcase.
I'm
Interesting.
going to shoot the moon, man.
What's the logic behind that choice?
I think if any of the first parties can get exclusive rights for some sort of teaser or surprise, Sony could do it.
Okay.
So,
Well, Sony's trying to get into the live service game, and it is a live service game apparently, from what has been said. And if it's in development hell, maybe a push from PlayStation would help get it over the edge. So you never know.
yeah,
People from
maybe.
Team 4.
All right, my other one, one of my favorite games for past years, one that a lot of people, it's hard to recommend the first game because it's such an oddball, but Death Stranding 2, I'm hoping will show up.
Yeah, that'll be
What I find
interesting.
funny is your third pick is probably the most likely.
I actually don't think it is because Keeley is still
And that's the only
around.
reason. That's the only reason.
I brought that up with David. I was like, do you think he would just save it, whatever, he's working on, save it for Games Fest?
Watch it be a
because of
10-second. Watch Place be like, we have to have something, and he gives him 10 seconds, but just pretty much says, tune in 2 weeks to see the full gameplay trailer.
He's just holding a sign.
Summer Games Fest. Like it's gonna happen. It's just gonna be just enough.
Yeah.
I could see it. So this is for my third, I went with something a little bit more rumored, and I think it probably does show up here, is Helldivers 2.
Oh,
Apparently a trailer dropped for the game and got instantly what is it, DMCA'd or whatever you say. Yeah, they hit it hard. And the rumors at least were that it was kind of leading up to last September, and everybody's like, oh, showcase is happening, and then nothing happened. So your game eventually has to come out, I would assume, and the original was a PlayStation exclusive. So
yeah,
Helldivers 2.
Fun game.
Anthony, it's time for your third round pick.
All right. I need to be prompted. So
sorry, you're good.
We make this a show. So Sony is a big company, and they work on many different things. Obviously, they have The Last of Us TV show, and they're going to be working on other stuff. And so sometimes when you are creating something within video games, you gotta stretch yourself out and just let people know and remember, hey, we're doing this thing. And so with my third pick, I am choosing the Gran Turismo movie.
That's not actually a bad pick.
Did y'all realize, and maybe you did y'all realize that was based on a true story?
Yep. It took me like 20 minutes to convey that it was based on a true story, but
Yeah,
yes.
That has me a lot more interested in seeing it.
I
Yep.
agree. But it's still Gran Turismo movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Where else do we go with this?
Hey,
Yeah.
in all fairness, they at least made it the most interesting version of a Gran Turismo movie that it could possibly be.
I guess.
Again,
Is it really
that
a
it could
Gran Turismo
possibly be.
movie? It's
All the real
It's
car
about it.
sounds.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. Noah, take us away to the end of this draft before we get to our final wild card for the double points. And this one's those are gonna be out there.
Yeah. So I think for my third pick, mostly because I'm curious to see if they would get the marketing for it or not. But I would like to see, again, willing because I'm such a huge Star Wars fan. I would like to see if the reveal or what they're going to talk about for the Star Wars game that apparently Amy Hennig is working on
Oh yeah.
with her and her team, Skydance New Media. I would like to see what style, or even if it's just a title, what direction they're going to go. I don't know if we will, because Survivor is just came out, so they might try and roll with that momentum and reveal another Star Wars project, because I think KOTOR is infinite, so I don't think KOTOR
Yeah.
remake will show up at all. But yeah, so yeah, I'm
KOTOR
gonna go
remake
with
has apparently had some issues, and
issues.
people think it might be.
Yeah.
People think it might have been full on rebooted, just about. So
Yeah, and I was like going with like the most likely thing that we'll get. So I'm gonna go with Amy Hennig stuff.
So if you're going crazy, you do have your wild card on the board, sir. What is your wild card for your
Ooh.
double points?
Wild card sound effect.
Yeah. Oh. So this is something that I meme on every time we do predictions or award shows, and I'm going to keep saying it because the one time I'm right, it's like Titanfall 3.
Oh,
No way, dude. I can't. You took mine.
oh wow.
You evidently haven't
That's
watched the
great.
podcast, because that's my pick for every award show and every reveal
funny.
showcase is I want Titanfall 3.
I hate the fact that little other game that they've pushed so hard is in the Titanfall universe, because it's taken away from 3.
Oh my gosh, he couldn't even say its name. He was like, I'm so offended by this other game. Can't even say the name of it.
On here that I've quoted Respawn's tweet of Titanfall is in our DNA. That infamous tweet, the amount of times I've quoted that. So, yeah.
Swinging photo fences.
Oh, I'm in the parking lot, dude. Like, we'll see. Like, and I'm driving away, not even looking back.
I'll Venmo you money for lunch if they announce Titanfall 3.
That's the ball went into the stands and you just threw it and then just walked away.
Like,
3.
Don't even look, and it just goes completely off.
Anthony, what you got for us?
All right. Well, this is I don't know how to convey this particular pick as my wild card, and this is probably going to be the one that is the most obvious for me. Stuff for PlayStation Extra and Premium. What stuff? I don't know, but they will announce stuff.
It's like when Xbox had that one Game Pass trailer during the Game Awards.
Oh gosh, that was a lot worse. You're sitting in your own theater and literally announce nothing.
There's so many games they could put on there. I don't know, but I do think they're gonna figure out a way to beef up their Extra and Premium and make it sound even more.
I agree.
More sexy.
Now, is it going to be? Are you saying this as a specific segment, or are you saying this is like the old, like Xbox doing their showcase and it ends with plus on Game Pass day one, like are we super generalizing this, or is it going to be a segment?
You said it didn't matter.
No, I was just asking, but that's fine. I'll go with it.
No, okay, so to be fair to the Xbox stuff where they have like a bunch of montage at the end, they have the whole thing is like live reveal or what world reveal and
World premiere.
there you go, world premiere, and then it's also on Game Pass anyway. So like everything they show is on Game Pass. But with that said, I think they will actually have a segment dedicated to new stuff. Not a long segment, probably more montagey, but
Yeah,
they will have a segment.
makes sense. All right. My wild card. I kind of struggled on this one because I've got two that I feel like are pretty good. But I think the one that kind of snuck in at the last second is the one I'm going to go with. Grand Theft Auto 6 gets its first
I can see
teaser
this.
trailer at this one because
How many
we
Are
just
we
found
gonna
out
do?
from Rockstar's financials that next year there's a whole lot of money expected to be coming in, and God knows that's not GTA 5. As much money as it's making, it ain't making that. So you've got to drop something big. And that means the plan, at least, is to have it come out. And this would be a good spot, especially since PlayStation usually has the marketing. I mean, they literally started their PlayStation 5 show
They
with
did with
a
freaking
Grand Theft Auto
Online.
5 advertisement. So why not start the next phase of PlayStation with Grand Theft Auto 6 being announced? I mean, God knows it's going to get announced for 2024 and then get delayed to 2025 anyway, but you got to start your announcement somewhere, and
I think
they're going to start it here.
I think it could show up, based on your logic. I don't think they would put it at the beginning.
Well, I'm
Grand
not
Theft
saying
Auto-
I'm not saying at the beginning. I'm just
Yeah.
it's a way
Showing
to
up.
you kind of start off phase 2, so to speak.
Yeah, they'd probably save that one for a little later because it's so big.
Yep. Oh yeah.
They will dwarf
That's
the whole
a
show.
we've got one more thing kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could be as little as it could be the Elder Scrolls 6 Bethesda reveal. Like
Right.
that
yeah.
could
Just
be
the
as
title.
simple as it is with a nice view of the new map.
Yeah,
Essentially,
just seeing feet walking through a sprawling city, cars driving by nighttime, showing off ray tracing, doing all that stuff. and
GTA
then
6.
GTA 6.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, it just I could see it. I could really see it.
That'd be dope.
Joe, what you got? I'll say what my other one was after this, just because
I
I
was
thought
saying-
it was interesting.
I got a couple. I'm trying to figure out which is more of the long shot here. I'm going to go with the longer shot, and I don't think this will happen. They've already said this game's a ways down the line, but I think maybe we can get a teaser trailer or something for it at the PlayStation Showcase. And I'm going to go with Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Maybe.
That's a very, very, very long shot.
But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. That's kind of my shoot the moon.
I
The
think
other,
they
Not
have
to
a
mention
deal
it was a
with
part of the
Xbox.
Game Pass stuff. Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah.
Not that
Do you-
not that it can't show up, but yeah.
The other one that I had was, and I think this one might be possible, that as a call and response to Xbox shadow dropping games, I think Sony's going to shadow drop something notable.
I'll give you the choice. You want Silk Song or do you want the Shadow Drop on there? It's
I've
whatever you wanna do.
already shot my shot. I'll leave
Okay.
Silk Song up there.
I
It's
almost
got
said
about as
something.
much chance of Titanfall 3, but
I almost said something Splinter Cell because I really want that to happen
that'd
eventually.
be cool.
But Ubisoft would save that for their conference, I would imagine.
Yeah.
My other idea was seeing the quick glimpse of whatever Sony Santa Monica's next IP is, since they have two teams and they have been working on whatever it is. Obviously, probably mid-production. They probably still got 2-3 years, but if
At
you're
least
going
let
to
us
show
know,
off Kingdom
you know.
Hearts 4,
Yeah.
Give us some titles that we know. You know?
Yep.
So
exactly.
Wolverine's been mentioned before. I'm surprised none of us mentioned it.
Yeah.
I
I
saw
feel
it,
like that was
but
a given. but that's just
Yeah.
me.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
I think it's a good. There's a good shot at Wolverine showing up there. I think it'll be very similar to what that other showcase was. It's not going to be very much. The biggest
still
question
working
is,
on
do
it.
you want to steal from Spider-Man? Like, I know they both announced they had both trailers in the same showcase, but there's a huge difference is we're really pushing Spider-Man. Oh, and here's Wolverine. Compared to, oh, we showed you 2 CG trailers for 2 upcoming games. Like, this is Spider-Man's real coming out party at this showcase. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Wolverine, but I also could see it not being there at all. It just wouldn't surprise me just because this is where you really push leverage Spider-Man.
Save that for another, down the line.
Exactly. And that's the craziest thing is there's so many different things. Like Bend is working on a new IP. Heck, Insomniac could be working on something new that we don't know about already. That team is stupid. I've heard rumors that new Uncharted project might be coming around. I mean, all kinds of things. You just never know. Twisted Metal, that's supposedly being worked on. Heck, that might be your shadow drop.
I mean,
right
they're
before
doing
the TV show.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah,
the TV show's next month or 2 months out with Anthony Mackie starring.
Mm-hmm.
So
the game will also look AI produced. So.
Oh goodness.
I don't know. I tried to stay away from hyper obvious things because it's more fun when you swing to the fences. Like Final Fantasy 16.
Sure.
Nobody mentioned that. That's an easy point.
Which I think I don't think it's actually going to show up that heavily. I do think that there's actually a good chance that you get a quick launch trailer along with a demo drop. Yep. That was actually something I'd thought about on my list, but honestly, I don't think anybody had anything to like. There's seven. We have each one of us, I think, has at least one that's possible. With a lot of other things that's pretty out there.
I think all of mine are pretty out there.
I don't think Factions 2 is as out there as you think it is.
Yeah.
I think
Neil
the
already
Soul's a
said
good
more.
option too.
Yep.
What'd you say, Joe?
I said I think the PS5 Pro has a high chance of possibly showing up.
I just don't know around because they just raised the price on the PlayStation 5 in the UK and, all that kind of stuff. So then it's like, oh, we're announcing a PlayStation 5 Pro, guys.
I had some form of new hardware, like whether it's like a new controller,
They may even show that Q Lite that got rumored, the portable, whatever it ends up being.
Yeah. So. Nobody mentioned Silent Hill 2 remake.
Bungie might drop something.
I mentioned it, but it was in saying that I was going to do Metal Gear Solid though.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true about Bungie. Yeah, it was some Destiny related.
I don't think it's. I hope it's not Destiny. I want like something new because they've got that Matter working. Codename title that's supposed to be like an online.
There's rumors
PvP.
of Marathon.
I forgot all about their live service stuff.
Well, the interesting thing is I can at least say that I've heard that Sony has pushed them a little bit. Maybe because they want something because Sony wants something here. So
that's the recipe for failure. So with the live service.
I should have put as my wild card, but
to make a CG trailer and not attach a date to it, that's fine. But
what are you saying, Noah?
I was like, my wild card should have been PlayStation announces the acquisition of a big studio. Because I think that would have been really funny.
That would be funny. The thought of it, I don't know if they would actually do that. I don't know how tasteful that would be.
Like I said,
do that in your showcase.
After they're on
really
record as saying that they're just trying to block Microsoft.
Like,
that
would
be
by the way,
they open the
we
show
have
with
acquired CD Projekt
Microsoft
Red.
and Activision Blizzard with a big red X through it. Not happening. Let's start the show.
Oh man, all I know is I think we're about to be in for a heck of a show, and that's just going to be the beginning because we're going to get some great stuff over the summer. It's
Cyberpunk
nice to
better be
have.
there.
It's nice to have faux E3 back.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know. Yeah. Where do you think this will be rated among the other PlayStation showcases? Because I don't think anyone will beat the PlayStation 5 one until like everything is a banger.
I
The
think
PlayStation 5 one was dope.
I feel like this one can, because this is around the same time frame as we got the, what was it? Was it the 2016 or 2017? I think it was the 2016 showcase where they showed off Spider-Man. They announced Spider-Man. They announced God of War. Like, they literally started with God of War. Like the 2018. They showed off Horizon. They had a lot of other great partnerships and stuff that they showed off.
Wait, are you combining the press conference with the showcase? Because the God of War was
this was
right?
Well,
E3?
it was that's in my mind. I'm just saying that it's the same idea. It's the same.
I'm just talking about
same-
like showcases, like their
Yeah,
online
showcase
thing.
But I do think that this can be the best showcase, and partially because we're talking almost every studio has been under wraps working on things. The only things we know for sure at this point that we are not going to see is something from Guerrilla, and even that, there's a chance because they've got another team working on something, and Sony Santa Monica, but again, they've got another team working on something. So we can really see something from almost every one of Sony's first-party teams if we wanted to. And when you combine that with the might of Bungie that they have in their back pocket, with the kind of third-party licensing that they can do and that they can make happen, I mean, it's not just... Can you imagine how excited some people are going to get when if Metal Gear Solid, the first game, gets remade and it's as good as something like what Blue Point did with Demon Souls?
Or even what Capcom's been doing with Resident Evil.
It's just,
There's so much potential.
there is so much that can be here, not just for new fans, but for the nostalgia piece for old fans. I mean, none of us even took a chance on Bloodborne. And I'll be honest, from some of the rumblings I've heard, even that could show up. Maybe it's just a 60 FPS, but I'll be honest with you, if that's all they do, Bloodborne fans will be very happy.
This is true.
I mean, we've got Elden Ring DLC, and they've also, I mean, that same studio. Is it the same studio that did the other Souls games? I'm trying to remember.
Blue Point?
That did Bloodborne?
Yeah, that did Bloodborne.
Yeah, From was did Bloodborne, but Bloodborne and Demon Souls, I believe there's something about them that I think Sony may own the IP.
Okay,
And that's why
they are
FromSoft had to
from
do
as the
Dark Souls.
developer.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So I
From
mean,
was the
we've
developer.
got a new Armored Core coming out as well. That's from. So
Yeah.
I think they're covered up too much to.
Well, Blue Point did the Demon Souls remake, and Blue Point we haven't heard from since the beginning of the gen. So there's you never know, they could
And
be
they're-
actually on whatever this
That's
Bloodborne
true.
thing is, for
They're
all
the
we know.
kings of remakes.
Yeah.
They are phenomenal.
I mean, there's stick them on anything remake, like it will be good. They helped with the Uncharted Legacy Collection port, which was fantastic on PS4. Shadow of the Colossus is just incredible on the PS4. Like when you see what they did, because they remade it twice. They remastered it from PS2 to PS3, and then they remade it on PS4.
Mhm.
So, and then Demon Souls, man, that thing's gorgeous. You never know. It just depends on what teams are doing what and who's building what. But yeah, Sony does have the rights to Bloodborne, so it's all in Sony's hands. And after seeing the bucks that Elden Ring just made, I just would not be surprised if Sony wasn't like, okay, let's go ahead and announce this now, even if it's 2 years out, because we want people to be like, oh, you liked Elden Ring? How about this?
Yep.
It's gothic Elden Ring that's a little more linear.
Yep.
Could you imagine if Bloodborne had the open world structure of Elden Ring?
I would be so stressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That game is already stressful, and I would be stressed.
Very much so.
But that is it. That is what we have.
All right. When does the PlayStation Showcase happen? What time? What day?
It is next Wednesday, May 24th. So it actually happens before our next podcast recording. And it is at 3 p.m. Central Time. It's 1 p.m. Pacific.
All right.
I will
Here we
definitely
go.
be tuning in.
I'll take my breaks and lunch all during that time. All right, well, that will do it for us today as we were recording. Joe, appreciate you dropping by, hanging out with us, talking games. You could check Joe's content out at geeksundergrace.com, and just check out geeksundergrace.com as a whole. He helped start that thing. They're doing good stuff. You want to know specifics about games and their content and what's in them? There you go. That's
he
where
also
to go
does-
get it.
He also does some great streaming and YouTube content at Coffee and Adventure. So that's both Twitch and YouTube.
There you go. Coffee and
Appreciate
Adventure.
you guys having me. This has been a blast.
It has been good. And so, with that said, we will see you next week and we will reveal our winners and losers of the PlayStation Showcase stuff. This will be fun. All right, deuces.
Peace.
Later.